125% higher than the last decade average. That is a huge improvement. Wage price index grew by 4.7% in 1 year.
More than 2.5 million Australians are getting a pay rise.
For WA, we're seeing strong population growth, strong migration trends, and thriving economy.
Perth's been hot for a while now, but is all of Perth still going strong, or is it just a few select areas? Jung Ma, lead research analyst at InvestorKit, answers this month's Listener's Choice question.
It's becoming a desirable place to live. I think the one thing that doesn't look so good is...
If you've been thinking of investing in the Perth property market, you're going to enjoy this episode. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast. My name's Todd Sloan, and you're listening to my chat about the Perth property market with Jung Ma. Jung Ma, it's been a while. How are you?
Good, all good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. We're going to be jumping into one of the country's hotspots as far as the state's concerned at the moment, looking at WA, but more importantly, looking at Alkimos. But before we get into it all, did you want to read out, the question was sent in by Junior, I believe.
For sure. Junior asked about Alkimos WA, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car, 179 square meters. Bracket, I know it's small. Built in 2023, selling for 510K, 15 minutes walk to Alkimos Beach. I know there's a lot of land here, but I think it's becoming a desirable place to live.
Okay, so he's basically calling out already. He knows it's a small block.
Yes.
And did you say 50 or 15 minutes walk?
Oh, 15.
15
minutes.
Okay, so
it's close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming then, because that was the whole question, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming, Junior, your question is more around, is it worth getting something that's maybe newer, smaller block, but a better location? But let's get into the question at the end of things. Once we've had a better understanding of first what's going on in WA, what's going on in the LGA, and then what's going on in Alkimos itself. So can we start high level with WA?
For WA, we're seeing strong population growth, strong migration trends, and thriving economy. Population-wise, the 1 year growth was 3.3%. That is, again, 125% higher than the last decade average. That is a huge improvement.
That is massive.
Yes. Internal migration-wise, it is gaining people from other states. So people are basically going to WA for jobs.
And so it's a mixture of, do you reckon it's jobs and affordability, or it's just jobs, people are flooding there?
For internal migration, I think the biggest driver should still be employment.
Employment.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What are some other state-based factors?
Economic performance is quite strong there. We're saying 3.5% unemployment rate. That is the lowest among all the states. The gross state product or GDP of the state is 3.8% higher than last year, and that is the second highest growth among all states.
How much of this still relies on mining? Because I know that was a lot of people's reservations for even getting into Perth. And now I don't even know if a lot of people are even checking it, just because Perth has been running like a madman. So is it still very mining dependent?
To be honest, it is still very mining reliant. That is, I think that is one thing investors really need to be mindful of.
Okay. So even if the suburb like in Alkimos stacks up, there's still a bit of a state-based kind of caution to take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think although it's just one suburb in the greater Perth, performance in smaller markets also are still quite in line with the larger area, whether it's Perth or WA.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that you wanted to add state-wise before we jump into the LGA?
State-wise, for WA, one thing really stands out is the wage growth. Wage price index grew by 4.7% in 1 year, and that is also one of the fastest growth among all the states.
All right, so it's all happening in WA as far as the state's concerned. A lot of positive indicators there.
Yeah.
What if we zoom down into the LGA? What's Alkimos's LGA called?
Cool. The LGA is called Wanneroo.
Wanneroo?
Mm-hmm. And Wanneroo is basically this LGA on the north end of Greater Perth. Population growth is strong, 3.7% year on year, quite in line with Perth.
Mm-hmm.
Internal migration is also growing since 2020. This year it's 20% higher than the last year, so it's also a strong improvement.
Yeah, right.
Unemployment rate in line with Perth and WA, 4.8%. Quite, that is much lower than last decade average as well.
Can you give me any contrast, or is it just all good news? Because this is all sounding like it's really coming up Millhouse for.
If we only look at these stats, they do look really good. I think the one thing that doesn't look so good is the income and supply.
Okay.
Because in the especially in the north side of this Wanneroo LGA, there's still quite a lot of lands under development. I believe Junior also mentioned it. He knows there's a lot of available land there.
Mm-hmm.
The building approval percentage in Wanneroo is now 3.2%. It is higher than Perth's average, and I believe in the south, building approval percentage should be much lower. And on the north end of Wanneroo, where Alkimos is, it should be higher than 3.2. Maybe it could be 4 plus or 5 plus percentage.
So as far as state-based, we're looking pretty positive. LGA-based, we're looking pretty positive again. If we start digging down into the suburb level, and we know obviously Junior's looking at a pretty specific property too, and rather smaller, but is there the demand in Alkimos to actually like back everything else up, or is this maybe the weaker area amongst a whole bunch of other positive?
Alkimos, I won't say it's weak, but compared to other suburbs in Wanneroo, it looks just not as hot or under high market pressure. Days on market wise, we are looking at 29 days on market.
29?
Yeah, it's
pretty
quite
low.
good. Yeah, quite good. And that one is in line with the LGA. However, if we look at the supply level, it is actually higher than Wanneroo.
What's the supply level? What are we talking?
Yeah, if we look at the inventory in the LGA, it is 1.9. Quite low.
Okay.
But if we move to Alkimos, it is around 3 months of stock.
So still balance, because balance is 3 to 4, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but just compared to the LGA level or the suburbs down in the south, it is
it's not the strongest
softer.
pick in the litter. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're talking about 3 months worth of inventory levels opposed to 1.9 LGA base, days on market 29. What's median house price in Alkimos at the moment?
In Alkimos, the median house price is 570K.
570, okay.
As Junior mentioned, this 3-bedroom house, the 3-bedroom house in Alkimos is 515K, slightly lower than the median price.
Okay, 515. Now, getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, the house side of things, what's your thoughts on Junior's question specifically? Because what I'm already getting is WA, you might be looking at a good state. Focus down a little bit more on the LGA of Wanneroo, you're probably looking at a pretty good area. Got a lot of strength going on there. Looking at Alkimos, not a terrible pick, but could possibly do a bit better. What about the actual property itself?
The actual property itself, when I look at it, basically these are what I'm thinking. 179 square meter land. It's quite small.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is it a townhouse? Is it
gotta be.
under is it under strata title?
Yep.
If that is, how much the strata fee would be, and will that make your cash flow lower than expected?
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to jump on as well and have a look into, Junior, because without knowing the yield on this, your gross rental yield might be spectacular, but your net rental yield, depending on what, like Jung's saying, what the strata costs may be, could not be anywhere near as attractive. That's a really good point to raise.
And another thing is if it's under strata title, value growth could not be as good as free title houses. I think that's another thing to be mindful of.
Yeah, we've done episodes before with Arj where he's pulled apart units versus houses, and I think the only place in Australia that units outperformed houses was Darwin for some reason. I think that's if that's right, you'd be much more educated on this than I am. But otherwise, it really is a strong bet that a house is going to do better than a unit longer term.
That is for sure. And another thing come to mind is the building to land value ratio. As Alkimos is a new suburb, so I'm assuming that this house would be. I don't need to assume. It's built in 2023.
That's right.
It's a new house.
Yep.
So when you buy it, the value of the building is actually much higher than usual. It's one factor that will affect your value growth in total.
He'll have some great depreciation, but that depreciation comes at a cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing is 510,000. If you consider the land square meters, it's not actually cheap. I did a search on REA.
Yeah, what is that? Oh, actually, I'm about to pull out a calculator. You've probably worked it out.
Because the median three bedroom house price is $515K.
$515.
And you're looking at 510, and that's a small piece of land.
So unless this is something that it's just like I'm buying this because I want to live there and I enjoy the lifestyle, investment wise, I'd be really surprised if you said go. This is really leaning towards a no, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
I believe so.
And just to expand on it, if I've understood you right here, Jung, this is a no, not because it's in WA, not because it's in the LGA of Wanneroo, but because Alkimos is probably not the best suburb, but still not a bad suburb, but it's more around the actual dwelling type. The fact that it's really new on a small block of land and it doesn't really represent amazing value. Is that a fair summation?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Look, Junior, I feel like we may have burst your bubble a little bit there, mate, but potentially also saved you from being someone that jumps on the show here in 10 years' time and says, my first purchase was an off-the-plan, brand new something. I made a big mistake. Don't want you to make a mistake, mate. Want you to grow a portfolio that makes you happy and helps you achieve the things you actually want in life. And sometimes that's getting a no when you submit onto the show. Jung Ma from Investigate, thank you so much for jumping on the show again. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.